Hey there, chatters. I'm Nat.
And I'm Kat, and welcome to the Crime Chat. I am your forensic femme fatale and cult specialist for this episode. Natalie's your true crime addict connoisseur.
We're just two normal girls who are like a box of chocolates. Sometimes we're sweet. Sometimes we're salty.
Sometimes we're nutty.
Sometimes we're nutty. But it's always a delight to unwrap us.
Yeah.
While we obsess about dark crimes, evil minds, and occasionally the unknown.
So here's your disclaimer, chatters. The following Crime Chat contains adult content and descriptions of very violent, sad, kind of unbelievable scenarios today. So your listener discretion is definitely advised.
Yeah, you've been warned like you've been before. So, Kat, what have you done?
Well, I can't talk enough about the ones who live, right?
Right.
I just can't. I cannot talk about
You're
it
addicted.
enough. I am.
It's a problem. We need to get you professional help.
Let me tell you how the last episode ends. Okay?
Okay.
This is how it ended. Michonne and Rick are in a helicopter. Rick's struggling with kind of, I guess you could say, a little Stockholm syndrome with where he's been.
Oh, you haven't told me that yet. Okay.
I haven't, but Michonne finds him. She's like, he still loves me, but he's a little different. And I need to wake him up. They're in a helicopter. She grabs him and throws them both out of the helicopter. And that's where the freaking episode ended. Ah!
Wow. That is the ultimate. If it's not me, it's nobody.
In freaking tense. Because I won't spoil it too much, but like I said, Stockholm Syndrome a little bit. He's telling Michonne, you don't belong here, go back home. Jadis, do you remember Jadis, the garbage people?
Yes.
She was the one after the bridge exploded that said, I gotta be.
Yes.
And that whole A-B thing explains, like it's explained and stuff in there, like what all that means.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm obsessed. And I'm proud of it. I'm not ashamed. And then the other thing, Chris and I watched Aquaman 2.
Oh, was that good?
Yeah.
It was? Okay.
Yeah. So me, in my little scandalous self, was like, is Amber Heard actually in the movie? Because I remember they filmed the movie, the Johnny Depp Heard trial happened. She lost like her contract with Disney and Marvel and all that. Well, no,
they
they're
both
DC.
did.
Aquaman's DC. Yeah, DC Comics. She lost her contract for the movie to play Mira. I was like, let me Google search this a little bit. And they did put her in it, but they limited her screen time to a point where the story made sense, but they did cut her out of some scenes.
Right.
So she, like, for the whole 2-hour movie, she was in it maybe 20 minutes. But it does make sense, like, having her in there, and it's, it's always nice to have the same character come back and play.
Yeah.
Or the same actor come back and play the same character.
Yeah.
Because you feel familiar with it. And I'm learning that in my how to be a fictional writer training, schooling that I'm in about the characters and the familiarization and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, this makes so much sense.
You should write a story about you and I trying to solve a murder.
Don't you think I haven't thought of that?
That's a great idea. Oh, my God. Like a crazy-ass murder.
And I kind of want to do, like, I have one story that I'm working on right now, and I'm using it to mold and learn kind of throughout the different courses that I'm taking and adapting. Like, so I'm learning the process.
Right.
But I had thought about that, but it has to be a dark comedy.
Yeah. I gotta laugh. I gotta be, me. I gotta be able to laugh.
I'm only laughing because it's uncomfortable.
And there's gotta be a lot of wine flowing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, yes, in the making.
Okay, good.
We will use different names to protect our identity.
Why?
It's fun to make things up.
Okay. You gotta give it like a cool name. Like a badass name.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there. What about you?
2 things. So I started looking around Paramount Plus. That's my new subscription I signed up to.
Yeah.
And I noticed that they have Orphan First Kill, which I have not seen yet, which
That's the newer one?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. And I did watch the 2 documentaries that you mentioned on Natasha.
Oh, Natalia Grace?
Natalia Grace. I did watch that. Yeah. I don't know. The ending was so surreal. I'm like,
right?
But then again, like the way that man came into the house preaching, and it was very
Oh, yeah.
scripted. You're right.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
super scripted.
Yeah.
But the way he came in preaching, I'm like, you know what? He's one of those people that takes it to an 11 when it really should be a 2. Like just, he just doesn't. So was he overreacting at the end? I don't know. Maybe it could have been her doing something wrong in the house. I don't know.
What did you think about the father?
Drama queen.
All right.
What a ridiculous man. Like what
Right?
I don't know. I couldn't take him seriously because it was obvious, and it was so funny because how like he had this he was living in this white house and he had like this Corvette parked out front. He left it right in front of the house, but it hasn't ran in like 5 years. But he did, and he said he's like, "Oh, I just want people to know that I have it."
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just ridiculous, man. You're
It was one of those points where, like, I really just wish I could punch the screen and it punches him in the face. Like, I wanted to punch him in the face.
Yeah.
Does he have an argument? Sure. To an extent. Does he do a lot of it to himself? Yes.
But when you think that he actually, there were pictures of her in that apartment. When you think about his interaction later on, he's literally talking to an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you gaslit me.
Yeah.
All right? But when you think about, like, this poor girl really, truly did go through that. And you know what? If she had disturbing behavior before, she's going to have some real disturbing behavior now. So whoever adopts her, you need to be ready. You need to be prepared.
That family at the end that was taking care of her and stuff when they changed her name and adopted her, did you listen all the way to the end of that phone calls?
Yeah. Oh, my God, get her out of the house.
Woo,
all right,
we'll
all right, Karen. All right,
to be
Karen.
continued.
Yeah.
To be continued.
The other thing is I have been trying to poke around the Disney universe, and I have to admit, I'm sorry. I'm not happy. I'm not happy.
What do you mean? Like with the movies?
With everything. I'm not happy.
Is it because you know too much?
I know too much. I do. I think that's it. I know too much.
You tainted yourself.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Oh.
There is no Prince Charming.
Goods. There is no Prince Charming. Oh, my God.
And they're all evil queens. That's
Fuck.
it.
You know what? I'm just going to start binging Hallmark. Fuck it.
Oh, gosh.
I know.
We may not be friends.
I know.
Just kidding.
So, oh my God, for your book, you should literally start the true crime novel with us being the characters as if we're in a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
Looking for our prince, and we end up seeing, and the prince is dead somewhere, and we have to solve his crime.
So we are characters in a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
Who are filming.
Yeah.
And
the guy dies.
A stunt woman or stunt man gets murdered or poisoned.
Oh, poisoned.
We have to figure it out.
Yeah. And I run the Olive Garden. Well, no. I have like an olive, what is that, a wine store, and you have like, I don't know, like a cake store. And we're just two girls next door doing our thing, being that lovable girl. And then...
You know what? I want to make homemade pet treats. Homemade dog treats.
That's very Hallmarky of you.
Thanks. It's Possum. That's going to be the name of it. So Possum.
That's cute, actually. I like that. But anyway, so yeah, Disney has a way to go. I have not seen anything that I am interested in watching because I feel like they are on in a replay on everything that was already done. I want an original story. Really, really, truly, truly do. Like, I'm just like, ugh. Like, I don't know. I want the same excitement that I got when...
As a kid?
No, as an adult. When, when Black Panther came out. I was truly excited. Like, I'm like, this is an original character. Like, where is this going to go? And the entire story was so unique, so original. I'm like, this is the magic. This is it. And then they keep on freaking redoing it. I'm like, come on, guys, you're better than this.
Yeah.
It's lazy. Yeah. Bad Disney. Bad Disney.
Did Disney, or has Disney done a cult theme on any of their movies?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know. Not that I'm aware of. A cult?
Nah, me either. Not necessarily like cartoon or animation, like just in general.
Oh, I don't know. Interesting.
Alexa, is there a Disney movie with a cult?
Yes, there is a cult-like following for the Disney movie Return to Oz. While it was once a very controversial movie, it has since been
Return to Oz is what it says. There's a cult-like following.
I could see that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kat, before we get into your story today, which I know you said it's going to be about a cult.
It's a cult of personality.
Yeah, scary cult. You said it's not going to be like a little cult. It's going to be like a big, scary cult, right?
One of the worst, yes.
One of the worst.
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So I figured, you know what? I go into a little bit of what's a cult? And, you know, like, what does it mean to be in a cult? And are you in a cult? And then I got some really funny things about a cult later on. So let's get into it, okay?
Okay.
The term cult can be controversial and has different interpretations and definitions.
Yes.
Generally, a cult is a social group defined by its religious, spiritual, or ideological beliefs, often led by a charismatic leader.
Yes.
Now, how do you know you're in a cult, Kat?
Sometimes you don't.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes you are blinded by the lights.
Blinded by love. Yeah. Well, recognizing that you're in a cult can be challenging.
Yes.
Especially if you're deeply immersed in the group's beliefs. However, there are several red flags, or AKA warning signs, that scream, sis, girl, you're in a cult, okay?
Yes.
Listen, we need to have a talk, okay?
Yes.
Here are some of them. Number one, absolute devotion to a charismatic leader. If the group revolves around a single leader who demands unquestioning obedience, loyalty, and who claims to have like this special knowledge or abilities, this could mean you're in a cult, okay?
Oh, nugget.
Next, isolation from family and friends.
Nugget number 2.
Nugget number 2. I have a feeling Nuggy is going to be all over the screen for the sneak peek.
Nuggy.
Cults often isolate their members from the outside, from outside influences, including family and friends who may question the group's belief or practices.
Yes.
If you are discouraged from maintaining relationships with loved ones outside of the group, this could mean, girl, you're in a cult. Okay? Number 3, us versus them mentality. Cults often promote an us versus them mentality, viewing outsiders as inferior or dangerous. If the group demonizes those who are not part of the group and teaches that only members possess truth and salvation, this could be indicative of, what's that word again, Krat?
A cult?
Yeah.
Ooh.
It could mean that you're a cult.
Well, it's a nuggy cult.
It's a nuggy
third
cult.
nuggy. All of these. There's so many flags.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing this because it's so relevant.
Number 4, manipulative techniques. Cults frequently use manipulative techniques to control their members, including psychological manipulation, emotional coercion, and deception. If you find yourself being pressured or manipulated into doing things that make you feel uncomfortable, this could be a sign of a cult.
Yep, nuggy number 4.
Nuggy number 4. Oh boy, Nuggy is all over this. I think Nuggy is going to win all of these, okay? All right. Number 5, financial exploitation. Many cults require members to donate significant funds of their money and their assets to the group, often under the guise of spiritual advisement or financial support for the group's mission. If you are experiencing financial hardship due to your involvement in a group, this could be 1, a bad boyfriend, or 2, guess what? You're in a cult.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nuggy.
Number 6, censorship and information control. Cults often control the flow of information to their members, censoring outside sources of information and promoting only the group's teachings and beliefs. If you are discouraged from seeking information outside the group, this could mean, girl, you're in a cult. Okay?
I would say a pseudo nuggy for that one.
Pseudo nuggy? Okay.
Mini nug.
Mini nug. Number 7, abusive or destructive behavior.
That's a big nug.
That's a big nug. If the group engages in abusive or destructive behavior, such as physical or emotional abuse, manipulation, or coercion, this is a clear sign that, girl, you're in a cult.
Red flag, red
Okay?
flag.
Mhm.
Wave your red flag.
Yeah. Well, while it's important to approach the subject of cults with sensitivity, here are some humorous names of unsuccessful cults that we need to remember. Okay.
Yes.
Number one, the cult of the cosmic cucumber.
Oh my God.
Number two, the order of the eccentric eggplant. I don't know what that means. I feel like
Why
it's
are they
very
vegetables?
Because it's phallic. I feel like it's phallic, you know?
Yeah.
Like this is definitely men trying to, I don't know.
Oh.
Oh.
Emoji. Oh. I'm just thinking vegetable. Like, what the hell? Emojis. Cucumber, eggplant. Okay.
Number three, the Society of the Silly Sausage.
Ah!
Here we go again.
Another one.
Number four, the Fellowship of the Fluffy Pillow. That sounds like a cult I can get behind, okay? I could do that.
Well, I mean, as long as it's napping, but I have a feeling that it's not.
Probably not. It's very, yeah. Number five, the League of the Illuminous Llamas. I don't know what that is. Llama's like the
Llama
animal.
drama?
Llama drama.
I don't know.
And yet the last one, the Brotherhood of the Bouncing Banana.
Oh.
Okay, remember, these names are funny. However, it is essential to respect the seriousness of the topic of cults and the potential harm that it causes to individuals, let alone the entire society. So, but those are some fun names of unsuccessful, thank God, unsuccessful
Thank
cults.
God. Can you imagine bananas everywhere? Bouncing bananas?
Banana.
When we lived in England and my kids were wee little tots, there was like it wasn't animated, but it was a kids show, bananas, and they were bananas in pajamas.
Oh, I know that show.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Bananas in pajamas.
Bananas in pajamas are coming down the stairs. Bananas in pajamas are coming out in pairs. That's my English accent too, so you're welcome.
That was cute. I remember that. That hit the States. I remember that.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, bananas in pajamas.
So I hope that set you up for your case today.
Oh, yeah, you gave so many nugs. We're going to hit all those nuggets.
Okay. All right.
Strap on, chatters, because it's for serious. This is a rough one. There's no bananas. There's no eggplant. There's no sausages.
Pillows.
No fluffy pillows. Not really any llamas either.
Oh my God.
But there's drama. There's llama dramas. Drama llamas. Yeah. Okay, so on the surface, there appears to be a massive gap between what you would consider a self-help organization and a dangerous cult, right? You would think there's not a whole lot in common. However, it is not always as obvious or innocent as you would think. Seduction, sexual assault, deviancy, branding, brainwashing. These are just a few of those topics that we're going to cover over today's story of NXIVM.
Ooh, okay.
NXIVM. And yes, that reminds me of the medication, the heartburn medication, NXIVM. This story probably will give you heartburn. You might want to grab your NXIVM, the medical kind, not the cult kind. So first of all, in researching for this story, I had big David Koresh, Davidian vibes, like, if that tells you anything.
Yeah. Ooh.
Now, while there's no explosive end and mass suicide / murder, this is still going to be a very insightful story about who NXIVM is, how they came to be, and literally how deviant they are.
Oh boy.
Or were, or are. So NXIVM actually will go down as one of the most destructive cults in history. Cult experts would say that Keith Raniere is the most horrific, abusive cult leader. His predatory nature and cruelty will shock you. You know, grab your drinks, straighten your tiaras, because,
grab your bananas.
Grab your bananas. He was actually recorded saying, quote, "Do you understand how you could rape a baby? I can make a baby very rapeable," end quote.
Are you
Look,
out of your fucking
that's just
mind?
the start, okay?
Okay. Oh.
So, on the surface, Keith Raniere created an opportunity for women and men, but mostly targeting women, to grow and to move on to like the next level. But members didn't really know how far this actually would go. Many women who joined the organization were in search of their life's purpose, feeling lost. You know, you've had like that lost moment, like, why am I here?
Yeah.
Like, what is my purpose in life?
Yeah.
This organization targeted people who were in that point in their life, and it would actually build a sense of community. They would actually care for one another, and it was seemingly a very safe space that was just surrounded by good people. In the 1990s, before NXIVM, Keith Raniere was known as a leader of Consumer Byline Inc., and this was a pyramid scheme business. Now, while he would be considered actually marveled as a business genius, the fact was that every business that he started failed. And it wasn't until after Consumer Byline closed that he met Nancy Salzman, and they would actually morph certain ideologies to create NXIVM. Now, at this time in our culture, self-improvement was huge. It was very popular, and Keith saw himself as the vanguard in a new era of world history. Now, keep that name, vanguard, as a nuggie.
Oh, God.
Nuggie here. But as with many cults, the leader throws together some ideas, borrows some ideas from other sources, other organizations, other businesses, and kind of makes it into their own. You remember Amway?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of NXIVM's multi-level marketing came from Amway's kind of like business.
Yeah.
And a way for anyone or all people to be in business for themselves. Like, I am a business owner. And I was part of an MLM. Like, I have my own business. You got to try it once in your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe you can make it work. There was a philosophy of objectivism.
That's good. You nailed it.
Objectivism. Okay. Objectivism, which was Ayn Rand. And I didn't know what Ayn Rand was, but Rand argued for rationale and ethical egoism, or self-interest, as the guiding moral and principle of her teachings.
Okay.
Or whatever. So, also some of NXIVM is Scientology. And in where they would re-experience incidences in their lives from beginning to end. But basically, Keith Raniere was not a creator of any of these original ideas. They were copied from other schemes and other organizations at the time. Now, before Nancy and Keith met, she taught neuro-linguistic programming, known as NLP, and hypnosis. Now, NLP was created in the 1970s. They communicated in a very special way that would kind of elicit certain feelings to make people feel special. Like, it was deliberate.
Okay.
A deliberate form of communication in order to elicit certain feelings.
Okay.
Deliberate conversations, deliberate interactions, without the other person realizing actually what you're doing. And one expert said that NLP, or the neuro-linguistic programming, was immoral. And honestly, it's just pure manipulation.
Oh,
it honestly
yeah.
is all it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. India Oxenberg, she is the daughter of the famed actress Catherine Oxenberg. Catherine was in Dynasty. Do you remember that bombshell of a show?
Yes.
Yeah, she was in Dynasty. But India, her daughter, was part of NXIVM from 2011 to 2018. She would say that she didn't know how she got in so deep, and being part of a cult, being sex trafficked, taking part in criminal activities. And if you actually Google her name, India Oxenberg, she'll come up as quote-unquote branded slave, or quote-unquote slave of Keith Raniere.
Oh, my God.
Or Mac's slave, Allison Mack. She's an actress. I'm going to get to her in a little bit. And that's just a start. So, are your taste buds swarming yet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into what NXIVM started as, and then we'll get into how it became what it is, how it became this thing.
Okay.
So, in 1998, Keith Raniere and Nancy Salzman, they founded NXIVM and kind of marketed it as a personal development company offering quote-unquote executive success programs, or ESP. And that's, if you search anything NXIVM, you'll find executive success programs, or ESP, kind of throughout. Right. They also offered a range of techniques for self-improvement. They initially started it as a training course for a business and like communication skills to apply the aspirations that whatever you wanted to do. If you own a business and something's holding you back, or if you need to break barriers to help make your business grow, self-improvement, like this is what they offered. So for people to kind of better themselves in order to better their
Like a
own
life
businesses.
coach, like life coaching.
Yeah, yeah. Well, NXIVM began to grow. In the early 2000s, it started in Albany, New York, but as they grew, they erected satellite offices around the world. They offered introductory and advanced courses in self-development. But from a business perspective, they didn't make much money, at all. But the courses that they were offering were pretty successful. Keith Raniere claimed that NXIVM's, quote, main emphasis is to have people experience more joy in their lives, end quote. Raniere chose the name based on the ancient Roman system of debt bondage known as nexum, N-E-X-U-M. Basically, in Roman times, a debtor pledged his person as a collateral. If he defaulted on his loan, the debt bondage was then common in both Rome and other archaic societies as a consequence of poverty, coupled with the limited and variable carrying capacity of the land. So, if you're poor, you put yourself up as your person to collateral in order to get money, right?
Wow.
And it's a contract.
Yeah.
So the details as to what happens in this contract are kind of obscure, and some modern scholars dispute its actual existence, but it does remain unclear whether debtors entered into this nexum contract initially with their loan, or if they voluntarily did so after maybe they were unable to pay their debts, or maybe after their debt was repaid, or maybe by a third party in exchange for becoming like a bondsman of that third party. So it's a lot of ambiguity in there. But despite constraining a free person's liberty, or libertas, as Latin, nexum was probably preferred to slavery or death for debtors, meaning non-repayment of debts under the 12 tablets resulted either in a total loss of citizenship rights through enslavement, being sold as a slave, or in the physical cutting up of the debtor's body.
Oh,
so
God.
Keith Raniere took nexum, an old Roman debt bondage,
Yeah.
and made an organization essentially named after it.
Wow.
Now, Catherine Oxenberg, I mentioned, that's Indian Oxenberg's mother. She was the one that was in Dynasty. She unwittingly introduced her daughter India to ESP, which she felt was a self-help group. Catherine found out about the group from a close friend. Her friend said, "Hey, I just did this class. It was the best thing I've ever done. My business is booming. You should do it too." India happened to be there when Catherine's friend was telling Catherine about this. And Catherine said, "Hey, are you interested?" And India said, "Yeah, let's go to the intro." At this time in India's life, she was 19. She spent a year in Boston at college, but ultimately decided that college wasn't necessarily for her. So she moved back to Malibu, California, lived with her mother, and she decided to start catering. So she kind of did that as an odds and ends thing in order to make money. But she had a passion for culinary arts and never thought she would be able to turn it into a business. She thought, hey, if they're helping with self-improvement and a self-help group to help make your business better, let's do it. When the opportunity came up to go to the ESP intro, India was very interested. She wanted to make her catering business work. And she thought she could take her natural talents and turn it into a profession. Catherine and India, they go to this intro, and when they walk in, the room was packed. There were other entrepreneurs. Actress Rosario Dawson was there.
Really?
Yeah. And NXIVM claimed to have other actors involved, such as Gerard Butler, Jennifer Aniston, documentary director Mark Vicente, and then Canadian actress Sarah Edmondson are the ones that actually hosted this event.
Wow.
Well, I mean, being in Malibu, I guess you're kind of targeting those who were in the entertainment industry. Yeah. So this intro claimed that the course, if they would enroll in the ESP, would give people the tools to conquer whatever obstacles were standing in their way of success. Kind of like upgrading a person's operating system in order to be more successful. They promoted their program as being connected in some way to the Dalai Lama, and supposedly taught their programs to heads of state, and even said that they taught their program to a president, although that has never been disclosed.
Right.
But this was a way to lure people in.
Yeah.
Oh, if so-and-so is doing it,
Right.
and it works for them, maybe it'll work for me.
Right.
And when you see these brilliant people involved, it tells the brain, I need to be involved too. And that makes the buy-in much, much stronger. At the 5-day course, they offered the ESP program at $3,000 per person. India didn't have that kind of money, and she said, hey, Mom, Catherine, can you put it on your credit card, and I'll find a way to pay you back because I'm really, really interested in this. Catherine asked her, are you sure that you want to do it? And she said, yes. But she said, Mom, I want to do it with you. Like, I want to do it together.
Aww.
And it would be a way for them to bond. Hindsight, to Catherine, this was the worst decision that she ever made.
Oh.
Well, to both, honestly. Hindsight to both of them, it's the worst decision that they ever made. So they started the program. They started ESP, and it was taking place in a Los Angeles home, supposedly owned by Eric Clapton.
Okay.
They get in, and there was a very strict kind of like curriculum that was going to happen over this program. You would watch part of the video, you would break out into like discussion groups and talk about it, and that's kind of how it went. So they watched a video by Nancy Salzman, and Nancy would teach certain concepts on this video. Once the objective was discussed, they broke out into groups based on whatever part of the video that they watched. But also at this point, Catherine and India were separated. Remember that nugget?
Yeah.
The NXIVM coaches said that they always separate family members. However, as history has shown, it's also predatory behavior, making manipulation easier. One of the concepts of this group was that you create your own reality, but the follow-up is that you're the one to blame for whatever happens to you. So one part of the video said, quote, someone with low self-esteem is a total victim, end quote. As part of NXIVM mission statement, they had to recite, quote, I will not choose to be a victim, end quote. And if that isn't foresight, I don't know what is. Like, basically, it's a way to make women believe, or men, because there were men in this program too. The coaches and stuff were men, but where Catherine and India were, it was all women. But it was to make women believe it was their own doing if they were being victimized. So essentially, they were victim blaming.
Yeah.
Like, it's your fault if you're in this own situation. So Catherine said that she found a few things to be very strange right away. And everyone had to wear sashes. They had to bow when they entered a room. They had to clap and say, thank you, Prefect. What? Prefect was the name for Nancy Salzman. Okay. And thank you, Vanguard. And a Vanguard was Keith Raniere.
Right.
It was like, it was a cult. It was very, like, organized in, like, certain things that you absolutely had to do.
Yeah.
Now, I saw that one other former member, her name, she only goes by Deborah.
Okay.
She approached and she's like, why do we have to call him Vanguard? And the answer was because they have to pay him respect and tribute because he provided the curriculum. Now, most cult leaders give themselves a name which makes them superior in the group. And these modules addressed any apprehension that somebody might have about the rituals that they do in the group. Basically, they were trying to normalize the things that they do, the clapping and entering the room, the things that they would say. And they actually even had a module named, quote, Why We Are Not a Cult, end quote.
They're coming out front and center on that one.
Woo! So, from the first day of this program, India and Catherine were told that they would have this, like, and all the participants, this grandiose one-on-one experience at the end. It was kind of like a capstone. And this was called the Exploration of Meaning, or EM, but it was done in front of the whole class. Everybody would sit down in front of the class with their coach. And basically, like, if you can picture a room, 2 chairs in the front, they're facing each other. One is the coach, one is the student.
Right.
And this is their EM. This is their exploration of meaning. Catherine would say somebody worked on their stuttering. Somebody worked on their fear of heights.
Yeah.
And almost every single person had a breakthrough of their fears with this profound EM experience. Well, Catherine said right before her EM, Nancy Salzman walks in. And apparently the coaches are like, oh my gosh, Nancy's here. This is amazing. This is so special. She never comes to these things. So Nancy spoke to the group and said that an EM was a stimulus-response connection and asked the remaining members who had yet to do their EM, including Catherine, to do it with her. Like, Nancy would be the coach. So one psychologist said this, it wasn't a coincidence necessarily that Nancy showed up when Catherine was about to do her EM, and that NXIVM actually considered Catherine and India what they called high-value recruits.
Yeah.
And not only was Catherine Oxenberg an actress, she was also the daughter, or is the daughter, of Princess Elizabeth of Yugoslavia.
Oh.
Her father was a close friend of the Kennedy family, and actually Catherine also played Princess Diana on 2 occasions in separate movies.
Oh.
So they're like,
Yeah.
NXIVM's like, she's here, we need her.
Right.
We need her daughter.
Right.
So for Catherine's EM, she did do it with Nancy, and she chose to discuss her anxiety around auditioning. Nancy asked Catherine to close her eyes and go back to her very first audition. Catherine remembered she was 4 years old, she was sitting on a man's lap, and he was sexually inappropriate with her. Then she flashed on to another experience where she was with a director, and he sexually harassed her. So Catherine kind of had a click and said it made a link between being hurt by men in power, like throughout her career. She kind of made that connection during this EM.
Right.
And she admitted once she made that connection, it seemed as if that fear was lifted. It was kind of cathartic for her, and she felt like she made a breakthrough. And this was the intent of the EM. One of the coaches would actually say that this 10-minute EM session is equivalent to 10 years of therapy that you might get to get that breakthrough.
Really?
That's what they say. But basically, I mean, I think in this EM, they tore people down. They found out their secrets, their pain, and they used that to leverage and gain control over that person.
Right.
But in the end, actually, after the EM, members were left this program feeling enthusiastic, ready to take on their goals. India, however, when she had her EM, she did not have a breakthrough for her first time. And she was kind of ready to walk away. She's like, okay, maybe this isn't going to work for me. Again, hindsight, Catherine said, if she had known India felt that way, she wouldn't have gone any further, but she only went further because she thought India wanted to.
Right.
So by 2003, NXIVM's mission statement was the following, quote, NXIVM embodies a set of consistent and universal principles in which all humans can participate. These principles, apart from any mystical or religious notions, allow for life to persist and uphold a diversity of beliefs. By creating a new understanding, we can actualize our potential to live and work together and consequently bring human existence to a whole new level. Yet this cannot be done without first raising human awareness, fostering an ethical humanitarianism, and celebrating what it truly means to be human. And this is our mission. End quote.
Now grab your bananas. God, wow.
It's making me gag.
Oh, no. Ugh.
But at this point, NXIVM actually had 3,700 people take their ESP classes.
Wow.
And some of their highest level clientele included the following. Sheila Johnson, the co-founder of BET and CEO of Salamander Hotel and Resort. She was the very first African-American woman to become a billionaire.
Wow.
Next, former Surgeon General Antonia Novello. Next, Enron executive Stephen Cooper. Next, Ana Cristina Fox. She is the daughter of the former Mexican president Vicente Fox. Next, Sir Richard Branson. But he actually has denied taking any classes since all of this. He's, what's the word I'm looking for? Not ignorant, but there's something. Anyway. And businessman Edgar Bronfman Sr. I don't know how to say it. Bronfman?
Because that F is just sitting right in the middle. That F
Bronfman.
The F needs to walk away. The F needs to go F off.
Go F off. Yeah. Well, he is the head of the Seagram's empire.
Oh.
Yes, the alcohol. It's gin, right? Seagram's is gin?
Seagram's has a bunch of different stuff. They have a Canada Dry type of Seagram's. Okay. Canada Dry. Don't they
Seagram's.
have yeah.
Yes. Well, becoming president, treasurer, and director of the Distillers Corporation Seagram Limited, he was president of the World Jewish Congress. Now, side note, he is actually known for initiating diplomacy with the Soviet Union, which resulted in legitimatizing the Hebrew language in the USSR and he contributed to Soviet Jews being legally able to practice their own religion and immigrate to Israel if they chose so. So, like, during the Cold War,
Right.
he did all this stuff.
Wow.
I was like,
yeah,
wow.
Impressive.
Super cool, yeah. Back to Keith Raniere. So, Daddy, Edgar Bronfman Sr., apparently did these courses. Keith Raniere was then introduced to Bronfman's daughters, Claire and Sarah. At first, Daddy Bronfman, he endorsed the course, but then he grew pretty troubled into their daughters' quote-unquote emotional and financial investment. Bronfman was also quoted saying, "I think it's a cult," in a 2003 Forbes article.
Okay.
In 2006, Forbes published another article about the Bronfman sisters saying that they had taken out a line of credit to loan NXIVM $2 million.
Oh.
But it was only repayable through personal training sessions and phone consultations with Nancy Salzman. Like, they're never going to get their money back. So that was the other nugget, like investing, right? Financial investment, but you don't get much in return for it. Yeah. And another Forbes article in 2010 discussed the failures of commodities and the real estate deals by the Bronfman sisters that they were making based on Keith Raniere's advice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So one of the most famously known members, like if you search NXIVM, you're gonna get her name.
Mm-hmm.
She was a member, recruiter, and a leader of NXIVM, was Allison Mack. She was an actress on the television series Smallville.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that the like TV, like Superman TV series?
Yeah, I watched it a long time ago. I don't remember who she played, though.
She was, I think, like,
The lead?
I don't know. I had never watched it. She was like the Lois Lane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was the main character. In 2006, Nancy Salzman and her daughter Lauren, a junior NXIVM leader, recruited Allison Mack. And now both Lauren, Nancy's daughter, and Allison eventually became Keith Raniere's inner circle and his sexual partners. But that's just a nugget. Allison Mack was enamored when she was recruited because and just absolutely became enthusiastic about the organization. She often went out and lectured kind of on NXIVM's behalf and about their ideologies. Around this time too, like early 2000s, NXIVM did develop a reputation for aggressively pursuing critics and defectors who broke from their ranks. That was another nugget that you mentioned. And this including pushing litigation to punish critics of Keith Raniere, critics of the organization, and how they train their people. Basically, if you were not persuaded to join the group or were bought into whatever their ideologies were, they would hunt you down. Or if you were kind of eased into it and give it a little bit of like peep, like behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And you decide not to do it, like you became public enemy number one.
Right.
Now, NXIVM also claimed that their training was a trade secret and it was subject to non-disclosure agreements. But reportedly, they did use a technique called, quote-unquote, the rational inquiry to facilitate personal and professional development. The training manual was eventually leaked, and it was published on a website that called the regimen an expensive brainwashing. And they attempted to file lawsuits. NXIVM attempted to file lawsuits against this person. His name is Rick Ross. But they were all dismissed out of court. Like there was no findings.
Good.
Like basically saying that the person who leaked it to you, because you received it from somebody who maybe broke their non-disclosure agreement, it doesn't mean that you did anything wrong by pushing it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So the World Ethical Foundation's Consortium is an organization co-founded by Keith Raniere and the Bronfman sisters. They sponsored a visit to Albany by the Dalai Lama in 2009. The visit was initially canceled by the Dalai Lama, saying that NXIVM has gotten so much negative press, but they did later reschedule it, and the Dalai Lama showed up, and he spoke at Albany's Palace Theater in May of 2009. Now, some of the information that I watched and read is that Keith Raniere specifically, but also NXIVM, they used this visit as a way to get people to buy in. Like the Dalai Lama, we're a very, Dalai Lama organization, and we believe in blah, 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 and you should be a part of it too. Now, in a 2010 Times Union article, former NXIVM coaches characterized students as quote-unquote prey for Keith Raniere's sexual or gambling-related proclivities. Kristen Keith, a longtime partner of Keith Raniere and a mother of his child, left the group in 2014 and called Keith Raniere dangerous, saying that, quote, all the worst things you know about NXIVM are true, end quote. NXIVM, while they are kind of pushing and publicizing, they're getting some negative publicity. They did spawn several subordinate organizations. Like, they followed under NXIVM, but they kind of had their own mission statement, if that makes sense, like a subordinate mission statement.
Yeah.
Jeunesse was a society that was aimed at women, while the Society of Protectors was aimed primarily at men. And there was a third group known by the acronym DOS, or DOS, and that was short for Domitis Obisquius Sororium, which, according to a member, says this means, quote, master over slave women.
Are
end
you
quote.
kidding me?
Oh, no, I am not.
Oh, my God.
So by 2017, details actually began to emerge about DOS within NXIVM, so the DOS subordinate organization within NXIVM, in which female members were called slaves, and they were branded with the initials of either Keith Raniere or Allison Mack. And those people would be considered their masters, whoever that they were branded by. They were subjected to corporal punishment and required to provide nude photos or other potentially damaging information about themselves, and NXIVM would use this as quote-unquote collateral. Should you ever want to get out, we got this bad stuff. You know, we're going to hold on to this stuff. It was
blackmail.
Blackmail, yeah. Law enforcement also alleged that DOS members were also forced into sexual slavery. Sarah Edmondson, I mentioned her earlier, she's a Canadian actress who had been an ESP participant since 2005. She said that she left NXIVM after Allison Mack inducted her into DOS in her Albany home. Edmondson alleged that participants were blindfolded, naked, held down by Allison Mack and 3 other women, and they were branded with a cauterizing pen by a NXIVM-affiliated doctor, Danielle Roberts. Like, you want to enter this DOS program, we have to brand you.
Oh, my God.
Right? So, appearing on an A&E television program about cults, Sarah Edmondson provided additional context for the use of this collateral, saying that it was used in innocuous forms from the earliest to the outmost stages of NXIVM in order to acclimate victims. Basically, collateralizing small amounts of money that you might feel you have to forfeit, perhaps if you didn't go to the gym for a day. Like, if you didn't go to the gym that day, you would have to, this $100 collateral, we're going to take that from you. It was like $100 or something like that if you didn't go to the gym. And I don't think I mentioned it in the story, but I remember hearing India Oxenberg, they made her work out because they said she was fat.
Wow.
Yeah. So the New York Times also later reported that hundreds of members left NXIVM after Sarah Edmondson went public about her experience about being blindfolded and being branded. December 15, 2017, the ABC News magazine 2020 aired an expose, including interviews with many former NXIVM adherents, including Sarah Edmondson and Catherine Oxenberg, who alleged, obviously Catherine Oxenberg said her daughter India was in danger from the group. Several former members reported financial and sexual predation by NXIVM leaders. By March of 2018, Keith Raniere, he actually was arrested, and he was indicted on charges related to the DOS, including sex trafficking conspiracy, and conspiracy to commit forced labor. He was arrested in Mexico and held in custody in New York after appearing in a federal court in Fort Worth, Texas. The indictment alleges that at least one woman was coerced into sex with Keith Raniere, who forced DOS members to undergo the branding ritual alleged by Sarah Edmondson and others, including India Oxenberg. United States Attorney Richard Donahue said that Keith Raniere, quote, created a secret society of women whom he had sex with and branded with his initials coercing them with the threat of releasing their highly personal information and taking their assets, end quote. On April 20th, 2018, Allison Mack was arrested and indicted on similar charges to Keith Raniere's. According to prosecutors, after she recruited women into first NXIVM and then into DOS, the suborganization, Allison Mack allegedly paid Keith Raniere to coerce them into engaging in sexual activities with him. Mack was further alleged to be DOS's second in command after Keith Raniere.
Oh,
So this organization, I was thinking Jeunesse. Jeunesse is for women. But yeah, this DOS, it was a very much master-slave. And how they sold the DOS program was, it was learn your role in your relationship with your significant other.
Right.
This is the man's role. This is the women's role.
Okay.
But it was very master-slave throughout the whole thing. On April 24th, Allison Mack was released on a $5 million bond pending trial and held under house arrest with her parents in California. Also in April 2018, the New York Post reported that NXIVM had moved to Brooklyn, New York from Albany, because Albany was their headquarters. Mm-hmm. And the Brooklyn office was being led by Claire Bronfman, one of the Bronfman sisters. By June of 2018, the Times-Union recorded that NXIVM had suspended its operations owing to, quote, extraordinary circumstances facing the company, end quote. Like, all of our leaders are being arrested and charged on federal crimes. May 4th of 2018, Keith Raniere pled not guilty. Claire Bronfman was arrested July 24th of 2018 and charged with racketeering. She was released on house arrest after signing a $1 million bail bond.
Wow.
Also arrested and charged with the same types of crimes were NXIVM President Nancy Salzman and her daughter Lauren Salzman, and then other NXIVM employee by the name of Kathy Russell. All these arrests are kind of taking place throughout 2018. By March 13th, 2019, Nancy Salzman pled guilty to a charge of racketeering criminal conspiracy. She agreed as a nominal owner not to contest forfeiture also of the NXIVM-related assets, including real estate, other corporations that Keith Raniere owned, and NXIVM's trademark and patent portfolio. So she agreed not to fight that, fight the forfeiture of that. She did receive 42 months in prison and is currently incarcerated at Hazleton Federal Correction Institution in West Virginia. Now, from the beginning, she's like, I don't deserve jail time. Bitch, yeah, you do.
Yeah, I'm shocked she just got 42 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
So on the same day that she pled guilty, the court unsealed a second and final superseding indictment against Keith Raniere and his co-defendants, adding the charge that Keith Raniere produced and kept child sexual abuse materials of a girl who was 15 years old at the time.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Later in March of 2019, Lauren Salzman, Nancy's daughter, she pled guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy. She later testified against Keith Raniere and received a lot of leniency, and she only got 5 years probation.
Wow. Okay. Ooh.
So sentencing documents for Allison Mack said that she entered a proffer session in April 2nd, 2019. The government credited her for providing relevant emails, documents, and recordings later that were used to convict Keith Raniere. By April 8th, Mack pled guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy. Though not necessarily called to testify against Keith Raniere, prosecutors said that Mack, quote, was available to testify at Raniere's trial if requested to do so, end quote. Allison Mack received 3 years in prison and was released July 3rd, 2023.
That's recently. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just last summer.
Yeah.
Also, April 19th, Claire Bronfman, she pled guilty to charges of harboring an illegal immigrant and identity fraud. She received 81 months in prison and is currently incarcerated at the Danbury Federal Correction Institution in Connecticut. Bookkeeper Kathy Russell, she pled guilty to visa fraud and received 2 years probation. Now, the big head honcho.
Yeah, because these seem like little slap on the wrists. I'm sorry, they deserve more time.
Well, he was the head guy. Yeah. So he went to trial May 7th, 2019. Trial took a month and a half. So July 19th, 2019, the jury did convict him on all counts, and I am going to read all of them.
Okay, cool.
Count 1, racketeering conspiracy. Count 2, racketeering for the predicate racketeering acts of all marked by jurors foreperson is proven. So he was proven to be racketeering and racketeering conspiracy.
Okay.
But there are subsequent acts to this racketeering count.
Okay.
Act 1, conspiracy to commit identity theft, conspiracy to unlawfully possess an identification document. Act 2 and 3, sexual exploitation of a child, separate acts against the same victim, so there was 2 of them. Act 4, possession of child pornography. Act 5, conspiracy to commit identity theft of 2 separate victims. Act 6, conspiracy to alter records for the use of an official proceeding. Act 7, conspiracy to commit identity theft.
Wow.
Act 8, trafficking for labor and services, document servitude, slavery. Act 9, extortion. Act 10, sex trafficking or forced labor. Act 11, conspiracy to commit identity theft. So those all fell under the count of racketeering.
That's terrible. That.
Yeah.
He did all that. That's just.
He did all that, yes.
Oh, my Lord. Okay.
Count 3, forced labor conspiracy. Count 4, wire fraud conspiracy. Count 5, sex trafficking conspiracy. Count 6, sex trafficking. Count 7, attempted sex trafficking.
Oh, my God.
So 7 counts, 11 sub-acts of one of those counts. All of this adds up to his sentencing. Judge Nichols Graffaudis entered October 27, 2020, included 120 years imprisonment, $1.75 million in fines due to the United States government, $15,000 assessment pursuant to the Justice for Victims of Trafficking Act of 2015. So he'd have to pay into this act. From a supplemental sentencing statement and order that was the following July, the same judge said he had monetary restitution from Keith Raniere of $3.46 million up to spread that out to 21 different victims.
Wow.
17 of the victims were recognized under the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, and 4 victims compensated under the Mandatory Victims Restitution Act.
Wow.
So he had to pay back all these victims.
Yeah.
Keith Raniere is currently incarcerated at a high-security prison, the U.S. Penitentiary in Tucson, Arizona. And you would think that's the end. No. Oh, no, it's not. You ready?
Oh, God.
Summer of 2020, when COVID-19 pandemic, it prevented in-person visitation to the Metropolitan Detention Center, which is where Keith Raniere was at the time. But his remaining followers, including actress Nikki Klein, began to assemble a dance outside of the jail because they could not go inside. Though they initially claimed to be entertaining all of the detainees, they were seen with a sign addressed to K. Rose, K.R., Keith Raniere, sharing his initials, and the group began to call itself, quote, the Forgotten Ones, and, quote, we are as you, end quote.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's insane.
Now, while incarcerated, Keith Raniere has maintained his leadership role over NXIVM, regularly communicating with his followers by phone and through what they call TrueLinks email, which is basically like an in-prison federal email system that gets monitored and tracked. July 16, 2020, an intelligence analysis memorandum from the Federal Bureau of Prisons Counterterrorism Unit said that Keith Raniere instructed his follower, Sunil Chakravorty, to get more women to dance, quote-unquote, erotically outside of the detention center. In response, authorities at the detention center moved Keith Raniere to another unit to keep the dancers out of his line of sight. A frustrated Raniere instructed his followers to get moved back by telling his followers they had to embed themselves in the prison staff. And this included offering coffee and donuts as they left for their shift, and like they were trying to seduce them. Now, Mark Elliott versus Lionsgate Entertainment libel case. 2021. Keith Raniere supporter Mark Elliott, he's all over the place. You'll see him all through NXIVM. Mark Elliott filed a lawsuit against Lionsgate Entertainment in the United States District Court for the Central District of California, alleging that he was libeled and defamed by Starz Network documentary called Seduced Inside the NXIVM Cult. Fantastic documentary. I watched it. Joseph Tully, the attorney who represented Mark Elliott, also represented Keith Raniere in Keith's appeals. The court dismissed the lawsuit and ordered Mark Elliott to pay Lionsgate Entertainment's attorney's fees and costs, finding that the documentary, quote, implied that the plaintiff was a devoted member of an organization whose leader has been implicated in a range of serious sexual crimes, but this assertion, however unflattering, is substantially true. So just because it made you look bad,
yeah,
doesn't mean it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
You were a devoted member of an organization that committed crimes.
Yeah.
Sorry it makes you look bad, Mark Elliott. Yeah. And then there's Keith Raniere versus Garland Prison. In May of 2022, Keith Raniere sued the U.S. Department of Justice and Bureau of Prisons, alleging a violation of his civil rights. Raniere sought an injunction allowing visitation and phone calls from his follower, Sunil Chakravorty, the one that was dancing outside, who he claims is a paralegal working on his appeals. The Department of Justice, Bureau of Prisons, and authorities at the U.S. Penitentiary in Tucson argued that the injunction would be denied because Chakravorty was not a paralegal. She was merely an ardent former ESP and NXIVM coach with whom Raniere is banned from associating with. Nay.
Yeah, no.
Judge Rainer Collins granted the Department of Justice's motion to dismiss the suit on the grounds that Keith Raniere failed to exhaust administrative remedies in line with the Prisons Litigation Reform Act and his lawyer's insufficient service of process. And that, chatters, is the end of the story.
Oh my God. Okay, so this reminds me a little bit of like a dominatrix and submissive personality type. Like,
sure.
This is,
yeah.
You've got to watch 50 Shades.
No.
Raniere.
Is it a cult?
It's not a cult, but he's very like 50 Shades. And like,
okay.
It's, oh my God. That's what it sounds like. Like he's like the dominant master type. Oh, that's gross. What does he look like?
Well, and the funny, no, ugh,
it's gross. He's gross.
Okay. So the other part to whenever they would go and so I kept this out of the story. There's I could go on with this for days, but there was one part of the story, like every year for his birthday, I forget what they called it, something week. And basically it was like paying tribute for this entire week to Keith Raniere for his birthday. And people would go up and say, oh, it's such an honor to be here and to celebrate you for your birthday and blah, 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 blah. And people would say whenever he would go out and he would meet people who came there to celebrate his birthday, he's very down to earth, very kind of approachable and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But people would also, like during these coaches and different classes, there were so many different classes that you were supposed to take. And that's part of the manipulation and separation from family is the more they realized that the family of the member is getting suspect of what's going on, the more they involved that person in, you need to take classes, you need to get promotion, and that you had to be a certain sash, would be able to wear a certain sash to get paid. So a lot of people actually never got paid to do what they're doing. So a lot of it was forking up kind of some of their own money. But the organization also had it in focus that you make it to the sash to be a coach or a senior coach, you're going to start getting money and you're going to be somebody. So that was like the goal of this, like, oh, I need to be a coach. I need to be a senior coach, kind of thing. So in all these different classes, people would talk about Keith Raniere and say that he was, what's the word, abstinent? He didn't have sex. He followed the Dalai Lama.
What?
He
didn't have sex. So he was just...
He's celibate. That's the word. Celibate. He's celibate.
So he was he like into voyeurism where he just likes to watch people in the act? Like what?
So when it came down into kind of like getting people, not inundated, I'm having a loss for words, part of the DOS group, those are the ones that became his sex slave. So on the outside of DOS... outside into all the other different groups in the organization, it was well known that Keith Raniere was celibate. Once you got into DOS, you became a sex slave.
He couldn't have sex with a normal woman who would put him in his place.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is...
the one that they were empowering with their whole ESP,
Disgusting. That is disgusting.
Yeah. I learned way too much more about NXIVM than I ever wanted to, and I probably only learned a tenth of what it actually is.
I need to watch that show.
Oh, there's so many. Okay, so on the Patreon, I listed not just the one that's on Stars. That's the one that I watched, but there's one on Netflix called The Vow.
Right.
There's so many different documentaries on them, and so many different books, and so many different articles, that the resources on After That Crime Chat is literally the longest list of resources I have ever made.
Really?
A lot of those were used in helping put the story together, but we also couldn't get to all of it. There's so much more detail. Right? So there's a ton of freaking resources that you'll find on After That Crime Chat. If you want to learn more about NXIVM.
Yeah, that's a crazy story.
The antacid pill.
Yeah. That's a crazy story. Thank you for doing that. Oh my God. Wow.
I hate cults.
Yeah, cults are freaky because they're so. I mean, I live in Florida. Scientology is right next door.
Yeah,
I have driven through there. Like one time I went flagship area where the flagship building is of St. Pete or Clearwater.
Yeah.
And I just drove through part of not in the middle, but in the kind of their neighborhood.
Yeah.
Do you know everything? There were no cars on the street, and everybody walking on the street stopped to watch my car turn the corner. Everyone. It's freaky. Weird. It's odd.
Yeah.
It's very odd.
Yeah. I could say I was part of a cult once, but I'm no longer a part of one anymore.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's freaky. Those are freaky. All right. Well, thank you for doing that. Well, chatters, because we don't leave you hanging, for more information, as you heard, there's going to be a bunch of bananas on our After That Crime Chat, only available on Patreon.
Bananas and pajamas.
Bananas and pajamas and a bunch of nuggets from the story today.
Yes. Don't forget to follow us, Crime Chat with Nat and Cat, on all of our socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and X. See what we got going on.
Remember, Crime Chat with Nat and Cat, when you become a VIP chatter to our Patreon, you'll have access to bonus episodes, behind the scenes, bloopers, and free merch. And check out some merch in the works.
And you'll be able to see the plethora of resources and listing of how you can find out more. While I don't necessarily know why you would want to, but you can find out more on NXIVM. Be sure to check out our next episode, chatters. It is a bonus episode. We do bonus episodes when there are 5 Saturdays in a month, with the bonus episode airing on the last Saturday, so March 30th.
Yes.
Our bonus episode's theme this year is female serial killers.
Yes.
And it's been a roller coaster so far.
It's fun. It's been
no
fun.
doubt the next one's going to be quite the ride.
Yeah. Bunch of bananas.
Poisoned bananas.
Oh, so you do not want to miss it.
We'll see you on the next Crime Chat.